Hi, I'm Jacqui Wright. I'm a dual-trained speech and language therapist and audiologist, and my practice is called Childhood Communication Consultancy. I'm going to be talking about auditory processing today. There's much confusion about auditory processing and auditory processing disorders between professionals in different disciplines and the general public. I've liaised with Dr. Siramana at Great Ormond Street Hospital for the presentation today, trying to iron things out a little bit. So what is auditory processing disorder? It is a natural process of taking in sound through the ear and having it travel to auditory and language portions of the brain to be interpreted. Auditory processing and language processing are not the same thing. Auditory processing depends on the signal or sound waves being delivered with fidelity through the outer, middle and inner ear, with the brain being able to process these signals. It is what our brain does with what the ear hears. At any one time, the brain receives multiple information through various sensory systems, including hearing and vision. Each sensation is physically different and requires to be transformed into a language that the brain can understand before being processed. Auditory processing occurs top-down from the brain to the ear and bottom-up from the ear to the brain. Both can create gaps or delays in processing. We manage only one auditory stream at one time, and we jump from one to another, and this creates gaps. The more gaps, the more difficult to find a pattern match with a word, and the longer it takes to process. Extracting speech from background noise occurs at different levels within the auditory pathways. Using both ears is extremely important to extract speech from background noise. Considering this language processing model, we can see that the auditory processing top-down and bottom-up model is separate but an interrelated process, which has led to much of the misunderstanding. The British Society of Audiology has stated that the ability to listen involves memory, learning, vision, and attention, as well as hearing. If any of these functions are impaired, then hearing and listening may be compromised. An auditory processing disorder is characterized by poor perception of sounds and has its origins in impaired neural function and impacts on everyday life, primarily through a reduced ability to listen and so respond appropriately to sounds. It is an auditory disorder. There are three categories of APD: developmental, presenting in childhood with normal hearing and may persist on into adulthood, acquired due to a postnatal event, and secondary, that occurs with a peripheral hearing impairment or subsequent to a transient hearing impairment such as glue ear. APD, an auditory disorder, can coexist with higher deficit disorders such as ADHD, autism spectrum, dyslexia and language impairment. Not all language and learning problems are due to APD, and all cases of APD do not lead to language and learning problems. Asher states APD is demonstrated by poor performance in one or more of the following on assessment: binaural tasks, auditory discrimination and pattern recognition, temporal tasks, low redundancy speech tasks. Auditory attention is vital for understanding spoken instruction. If ADHD is the primary deficit, then there may be secondary difficulties related to listening or other factors. However, attention may be affected by APD. The good news is that the brain has the ability to change through stimulation that is greatest when individuals are younger. Various environmental factors lead to establishing new neural pathways and shutting down unwanted ones, and this can be used in remediation. So what should you consider before referral for an APD assessment? Pure tone hearing test results and middle ear function in both ears should be normal. APD should be suspected by a professional, but this excludes untreated ADHD, autism, except Asperger's, and severe speech and language problems. If there are language phonological or cognitive problems, these also need to be assessed first and report attached to a GP's referral, along with the normal hearing test results. Community and hospital consultants can also refer. A child needs to have language maturity to complete the complex audiological test battery for APD. At Great Ormond Street Hospital, children can be seen from 6 up to 16, and then from 17 years on, the National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery. It's important to remember that you can't diagnose APD from a checklist. It can only be diagnosed by an audiologist doing formal audiological assessments. It is all about listening and improving our understanding of APD as well as management for these children so that we can give them the best opportunities for their education and life. If you have any questions concerning this, please get in touch with me. I'll be very happy to talk to you about it. Thank you.